The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "If the world hates me, remember that it hated, If the world hates you, remember that it hated me before you. If you belong to the world will love you as its own. But because you do not belong to the world, because my choice withdrew you from the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the words I said to you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you too. If they kept my word, they will keep yours as well. But it will be on my account that they will do all this, because they do not know the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Christianity, as we know, is the most persecuted religion in the world today. If there is any other religion that has gone through persecution of any kind, it is Christian. So today we, as Christians, we are still passing through that persecution. Jesus prepared his mind because he saw it coming and he knew this would happen. And when it began to happen, the disciples came to understand exactly the words of Jesus, that the world would hate them. So the words of Jesus came to fulfillment because Jesus had seen it and had experienced it. But today when we talk about persecution, how do we respond to it? That we know for sure it will come. So how do we respond to it? Are we going through persecution? The answer is yes. And if we are going through persecution, how are we responding to persecution? There are three ways I have come to understand that Christians respond to persecution. The first set of Christians responds to persecution by becoming indifferent, because they saw themselves so inequipped for the fight, they become very indifferent. They lay down their faith, they suppress their faith, and they are afraid to defend the faith, especially in the faces of those whom they know might persecute them. They become neutral. So those ones become anonymous Christians. And the other group of Christians, when it comes to persecution, they apply this idea of if you cannot defeat them, join them. They not only lay down their faith, they not only deny their faith, they even join the persecutions to fight Christians. They may tell you, "Oh, I was baptized a Christian. Oh, I did this before. Oh, I have done that. I have received my sacrament. I was in the church for so many years. I was an altar server. I was this and that." So if they want to attack Christians, or if they want to attack your faith, or to challenge you as a wife, as a husband, or as a parent, they begin to tell you how deeply committed they were as Christians, just to make you weak, to weaken you, and then after that they launch the attack and they say, "I did this and that before, but now I've come to see there is nothing in it. That is why I've chosen to take this stance." So among the persecutors, there are also Christians. The other group of Christians are the militant one, or the combatant one. Those who don't run away from persecutions, they face it and they fight it. They defend their faith. not in a very foolish way, but in a very cautious way. They don't make stupid decisions by placing themselves in the hand of the persecutors, but they try to approach it in a very subtle way, like Jesus has told us to be as gentle as dove and be as wise as serpents. And in a very subtle way, they continue to promote this faith, not in an aggressive or in a violent way. And how some of them go about it is, when the world begin to preach the culture of death, they promote life. When the world begins to preach injustice, their actions, their way of life promote justice. So they live the faith without saying a word. And that is for them, that is a way to face the persecution. And from time to time, their actions speak to people, and people come to see that, look, even though this person is not angry that we attack their faith, yet they believe in what they are doing. They are convinced. Such people are the kind of Christians we need today. In our first reading, we saw how the apostles moved from town to town, from village to village, preaching the gospel message without wasting any time, using any available opportunities they have. Remember, the roads at that time were not as good as they are today. They have no cell phones. There were no internet. And yet they use the limited resources they have to push this faith from one corner of the world to the other, until most of them, all the apostles, sacrificed their faith, their life for the faith. Today, you and I are the apostles of Christ. If Bible is to be rewritten again in 2,000 years to come, you and I will be part of the Bible story. Today we talk about the life of the apostles in ancient Roman Empire, how they move in the in some of the countries, in some of the country towns and villages that we heard about today. So if someone is writing the history of the Bible in 2,000 years, it will take a different dimension. We have the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the contemporary Testament, which is you and I. And that will be like the church in Australia, the church in the United States, the church in Europe, the Christian in Asia, and all of that in Africa and other parts of the world. How are you writing the story today? Is your story going to be similar to the apostles or different? May God bless you.